Yo, welcome back to another video. We're gonna be talking about the 0 to 10k per day beginner friendly Facebook ads dropshipping strategy. And in this video, I'm gonna share with you the exact way that I actually run my dropshipping business and the kind of mental models that you should have in order to think about, in order to go about when you are doing dropshipping on Facebook ads. So we're gonna be discussing a few things. First thing, we're gonna be talking about understanding the fundamentals of Facebook ads, how the platform generally work, and the mental models that I personally use to help me get results. Second thing, we're gonna be talking about some requirements for the strategy, and this is the way that I actually do it. I mean, obviously there's like a million ways that you can use to run Facebook ads, but we're gonna be talking about Gary's way in this dropshipping training video. The third thing, we're gonna be discussing the testing timeline, so this will give you like a pretty kind of like a more grounded and realistic expectations for what to look out for when you're actually doing the work. Number 4, scaling, and the last one is a case study. So I'm gonna go into my fulfillment software that we use, which is this platform called Service Points, and we actually managed to hit 9.69691 euros on the 7th of December in 2025. So we managed about that was about 11.5k in euros, and for the month of December we did about, I think it was about 150k, so 142k euros, which is about 160 to 170k USD. And with this strategy, I've been consistently doing like 100 to 150k in my sales. So first thing first, let's talk about Facebook. And what I actually noticed about Facebook is the more creatives that you actually have on Facebook, I'm just gonna call this C, the more likely you are gonna the higher your chances of success. Because right now, with the way that the AI has evolved over the years, right? We don't really depend so much on like choosing the right interest, choosing the right targeting. All of that, I think, is really to be honest, it's like really outdated, right? I's for interest, T for targeting. And right now, what it really comes down to is the volume of creatives, meaning like how many high quality creatives you can pump out. And the thing is, like with Facebook, the more creatives you can basically kind of like allocate into one campaign. And say, for example, one campaign you have like, for example, 30 to 50 creatives, and you're testing that one particular product or that one market or whatever you're doing, your chances of finding winning creatives is gonna be much higher, because the algorithm is gonna basically look through all of his data and tell you like, okay, you know what, these 3 creatives out of these 100 creatives you have launched is most likely to be the winner, and those are the creatives that Facebook is gonna start spending on. And that's how you can actually basically start with like a relatively low budget and still find winning creatives. So having this mental model and understanding that Facebook is really a creative game, the way that I found success in dropshipping is by focusing on a niche which has a lot of products to test and have a lot of possible creative angles that we can launch on Facebook. And for this, I highly recommend fashion, right? Because the thing about fashion is there are like so many different variations of, say, so for example, like a shirt or like a jacket. You can literally find tens or even like hundreds of thousands of variation for a shirt. And with that, you can create like unlimited amount of creatives, right? Fashion plus high amount of creatives. And with this approach, you can start with a low budget and you can basically just keep feeding the Facebook creative until your campaign is profitable. And this is what I found to basically work the best for me. So the way that I do it is, I firstly find step number 1, right? I focus on finding a somewhat untapped market. So it could be like, for example, within the European region, for example, like Switzerland, for example, like Netherlands, countries such as Germany, France. Basically, you want to find a market that is like relatively untapped. And to be honest, you gotta kind of like try it yourself, because many times you don't exactly know how the market is gonna perform unless you kind of like test it out yourself. But the very cool thing about the way that we actually do it is we start with a really low budget of $50 per day in an untapped market, and we just let it run for about 3 to 4 weeks. And starting at $50 per day in an untapped market, running 3 to 4 weeks every single day, we launch about 10 products a day with 3 creatives for each product. So this way, we are just like basically blasting like a bunch of creatives into Facebook and letting Facebook collect all this data. And based off this data that we are consistently producing to Facebook, it's gonna spend your allocated budget on advertisements that they think it's most likely to work. And what I found is like over time, right, as you keep adding more products and you just keep like basically testing every single day, within around the 3 to 4 weeks region is when you're gonna know whether or not the market is gonna work. And if it start working, you're gonna be getting like good ROAS such as like 2.5 or like maybe 3 plus or even 4. And then that's when you actually start to scale. Because this is a volume based approach. The way that I actually do my product research is I don't really focus on finding good products. Instead, I just focus on having like a kind of like a mass testing mentality, focusing on volume. And you're finding these products on your Facebook ad library. And for if you want to have more if you want to learn about how you can do product research, you can just look at my YouTube videos. I made a bunch of videos on those. So basically just adding like a bunch of products into your Facebook ad campaign. Yeah, seeing like whatever your competitors are successfully selling and literally taking those ideas and then just letting Facebook decide which one is most likely to work for the market they're selling. Because the thing is, every single market is different, right? What's working in Germany may not necessarily be what's working in Austria. And the really cool thing is, for example, if you are taking like someone's product that is working really well in Germany, maybe in Austria it's under maybe in Austria not many competitors are selling there. There's still like a market for that, so you can literally just arbitrage that way. And that's how I find winning products for my strategy. And every single product you want to launch 3 creatives, right? So focusing on a volume game, which is highly recommend you to launch at least like 5 to 10 products. Personally, for me, I launch 10 products every single day, 3 creatives each. So this could be like a carousel or maybe like an image or like a video. Basically, you want to find different angles of the product they're selling, taken like in different maybe backgrounds, like different scenarios, or perhaps even like a video, because video, honestly, they work really well, especially AI video ads. They have been doing really well. And then you just like pumping out these creatives and just letting it read. So in terms of the testing timeline, this is kind of how it's gonna look. Then this is a fat highlighter. Let's say day 0. Day 0, you're probably gonna the first day pretty much, right? You're gonna start with around 10 products and about 30 advertisement. And then what you want to do is basically, right, I'm just gonna erase this. Starting with like 10 products and 30 advertisement from day 1 to for example like day 7. You want to continue adding 15 to 30 ads every single day, which means it's about 15, which is about 5 to 10 different fashion products every single day. And if you're doing fashion, honestly, it's a really, really, really easy to find products to sell, because you're just seeing like whatever your competitors are selling, and then you're just like taking the same product ideas and then just literally like repeating or trying it out in a different market. So 5 to 10 products with 15 30 creatives, which means every single product you're launching 3 creatives at a time. And then just keep adding and just keep adding and just keep adding. And basically, right, what you're gonna find is the kind of results that you're gonna get on the first week, right, is probably gonna be anywhere from like 1 to like 1.6 in return on advertising spend. Okay. So the really cool thing about this strategy is in the testing phase, the losses are very, very low. Right. And for me personally, right, what I find is, the thing about like the way that people actually teach other people on, like running, like doing drop shipping and stuff, is a lot of the strategies, they cost a lot of money to test. Right. And the thing is, like, you can literally, for some strategies, you can literally lose up to tens of thousands of dollars before you actually find a winning product, which is insane, right? Imagine like losing 10K to find like a winner that maybe generate like 20 to 30K net profit. If you have like a big lump sum to actually invest in drop shipping, then that is great. But I know for like many people, maybe you're starting with like $3,000, $5,000. Like that, those strategies is just not very, very it's just not very ideal, because it just basically costs too much. And the thing about the way that I actually do drop shipping is, what I notice is for beginners, right? If you are lucky, we actually have students that are profitable right from week 1, because they pick the right markets and then they just follow the way that we do it. On week 1, your return can be net positive. But the thing is, on week 1, of course, you're not gonna be getting anywhere to like 10K per day. You could be going. We actually have a student that did about 1K per day within like his second week of using this strategy. So this is the kind of like timeline you want to expect. And in terms of like the pure scalability aspect of this strategy, if you want to hit 10K per day, you're probably gonna have like a lot more stores. And with one store, it's possible to hit 10K per day, but it's just a lot more rare. So how do you actually scale? Like we said, we're starting at $50 per day, and the way that we actually scale is if the last 3 days, if your net margin is more than 25% plus, and you just basically keep doubling the budget until it stops working. So starting at $50 per day, you say for example I run in up till like day 7. If the ROAS on the last 3 days is like for example 3.2, 3.4 from $50 per day, you can just literally increase it to $100 per day. And then for me, I'll wait another 48 hours. Then if 48 hours, the last 3 days return on advertising spend is still like more than 25%, or like maybe more than 2.5 in return on advertising spend, then we can just double from $100 to $200. So we just keep repeating the same process until your campaign budget is like, $1,600. Once you're at around like 1,600 of like, or like maybe around like 1,200, basically more than 1K per day, instead of doubling, I'll highly recommend you to increase by 50%. So for example, once you're like 1,600 in advertising spend, you have like a bunch of winning ads, you are continuously adding like new ads every single day. Then you want to increase by 50%, then it's gonna be like, for example, like 2,400, right? So this is kind of like how you scale. And also because the thing is like when you're doing drop shipping, especially if you're drop shipping in a market that is not like a really big market, for example, Ireland, you'll find that at higher budgets, the campaign tend to not last as long. And also the other thing is you gotta be more careful with budget increases, because they tend to not work as well at high budget, just due to the fact that the audience is like so much smaller. And then once you have a profitable store that is doing like anywhere from maybe say like 2 to 3K per day, and you're at like maybe 1K per day in budget, what you want to do now is just to basically just repeat the same process and just duplicate whatever you've been doing in a different market, right? Just do this like times 10. And that's how you can scale to 10K per day following my strategy. Because the way that I actually scale is I focus more on scaling horizontally. So when you were saying earlier, right, my sales, to reach like 10K per day, I was active in like 8 or 9 markets. So the main market, I have the best market was doing maybe about 4 to 5K per day. And then I have the other markets that are doing like 1K, another one doing like 1K, another one doing 2K. And then it kind of like adds up to like 10K per day. So this is pretty much how I scale. So right now we are inside my ad account, and I want to show you one store that I started using this strategy. And this is honestly one of the best stores that run dropshipping fashion. And on the 19th of July, we started running ads, starting at $3 per day. As you can see, we started with about 30 advertisements, 10 different products. And this particular store was just profitable right off the get-go. So the first week we spent about 437.51, and we already made back 2.64 in return on advertising spend, which was about, I think it was like about 25 to 30% net margin. And then from there on, it just has been profitable, right? It was okay. So the next week actually wasn't profitable, my bad. It was like breaking even the next week. And then if we look into August, I think August we did really well. So I think the third week of launching this store, we spent about 821, maybe about 2.12 in return on advertising spend. So it was already profitable. And I think I really started to scale, let me see when. And then the rest of August, it did really well. From 9 August all the way till 30th August, we spent about 10.2K in total ad spend. And we made back about 2.51 in return on advertising spend, which was about, I think this was about 6 to 7K in net profit in the month of August for this one store. And then September is when things did really well. So we were just like launching ads every single day, spend about 27.6K. And then we made back, I think somewhere around like 70K in total sales. And then that was about like a 60 to 70K net profit. And by the way, this is just for one store, so we basically duplicated the same products into like different stores, and then we just used the same strategy. And then we also have the other stores that are doing well, but this one is just like the best store. And if we look at the overall results, we spent about $109,000 in this one campaign. We made back about 2.25 return on advertising spend. But of course, Facebook, they tend to underreport. So this was probably a lot higher, maybe about 2.4 to 2.5. A point being is, yeah, this store made us quite a bit of money using this strategy, and you can just basically take this approach that I use for myself and duplicate it in your business. And that's all for this video. If you guys want to actually know more in depth about my strategy, and if you have some questions about drop shipping that you feel like you need help with, you can also schedule like a one-to-one consulting call with me. The link is in the on my description below. And in this call, we can basically just answer any questions that you have, and then share a few more about what Ecom Revolution about, which is my current training program that we have going on right now. And I think, yeah, there's a lot of value in there. And if you're new to my YouTube channel as well, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.